I'm a little disappointed. In fact, I'm greatly disappointed. Charles Clayton's mad at me. He thinks that some of the things I've said over the last couple of weeks are not helpful to our current discourse, and he thinks they might be possibly racist. Well, listen, I have implicit bias. I do not, repeat, do not dislike or disrespect anybody or assume anything about anybody because they're a member of a gender or a minority group. You know, I think white people are only 65% of the population. Anyway, we're heading for a majority population. Probably after I'm dead. Of course, I'm getting old. So the point is, I guess, I wanted to have a conversation here, and I wanted Charles to be a big part of that, whether he wins the election or not. An honest conversation. We're always talking about an honest conversation on race, but we avoid it absolutely with as much authority and passion as we can. And this is mainly coming from the left, by the way. The left doesn't want to talk honestly. They want to hurl accusations. They want to be full of rage and scorn, but they don't really want to talk about anything. All they know is they're entitled, they're privileged. Did you see Saturday Night Live last Saturday night? I rarely tune in because, frankly, the show isn't what it used to be. And boy, they did a piece on the vice presidential debate between Mike Pence and Kamala Harris. It was awful. It was just terrible. It was one of the worst comedic bits I've seen on that long-running comedy show ever. But Bill Burr's stand-up monologue was just perfect. And he said something, again, that I've been saying on this show for a long, long time, that the leaders of the oppression movement are privileged white women. Bill took off on that, and the audience kind of got uncomfortable. But he was right on the nose. You know, he described woke being woke. The woke movement, you know, everybody was staying woke. The woke movement was about bringing minorities together and advocating against police violence, for better conditions in minority neighborhoods, for greater rights. It's not like they were an old school civil rights movement. They were going to be in the streets and they were going to be loud. But that's what the woke movement was about. And it kind of came out really strong after the horrendous death of George Floyd, which, by the way, I've only seen that video once and that's all I can take. I'm never going to look at it again. But as Bill Burr observed, white women sized up the woke movement and saw an opportunity. So, as Bill said, they swung their little Gucci-footed boot right over the fence of oppression and put themselves right at the front of the line. It's like all this oppression and all these bad things that have happened to minority groups over the many centuries, well, they're not more important than these wealthy white women. And let's go down a rogues gallery, shall we? Hillary Clinton, remember her? She, after she was beaten, she declared herself a leader of the resistance. Wow. I bet she spent a lot of time in houses. What am I trying to say? I bet she spent a lot of time hiding from the police in her youth. No! She went to the most prestigious universities in the country. She lived in a upper middle class neighborhood on the west side of Chicago. And she has been greatly, greatly privileged her whole life. And if you see her today, if you listen to her today, one of the first things she'll do is start talking about oppression. And what is the group that she mentions first? White women, of course, actually just women. But she knows who she's talking about, and everybody else knows who she's talking about. Let's talk Nancy Pelosi for a second. Her father was an influential Democratic politician in Baltimore. There is a picture of her somewhere. She was 19 or 20 years old in the White House with John Kennedy. Is this a girl who was oppressed? Is this some girl from the hood who knows what it's like to feed your kids 3 bowls of oatmeal a day? No, I don't think so. I think Nancy's a phony when she talks about being oppressed or women being oppressed. If you want to see oppression, go down by the border, cross the border. Those women, mainly Hispanic, mainly Mexican, if you're down by the border, they're still cooking on open fires in cardboard shacks. That's something these women have never seen anything about, never heard anything about, but they're down with it. Jane Fonda, remember that? I don't call her Hanoi Jane anymore. I did for a long, long time. As a veteran, she disgusted me with her self-righteous preaching. Has anybody had a more fully privileged life than Jane Fonda? It's self-evident. Do I have to make the point any more than that? I mean, her dad was a big-time Hollywood movie star. Granted, Henry Fonda left the family pretty early, but she has been rich and privileged her whole life. Rich and privileged her whole life. Now I know there's some more. There's women who have come to the fore who are not as privileged. Kamala Harris did not come from a privileged background. But because who she was, and yes, her gender mattered. Yes, her ethnic background mattered in her climb to success. And yes, she even got things done through through a man like Hillary Clinton did. That was one thing that feminists were never going to do again, get things done through a man. But Hillary Clinton's been riding old Bubba's coattails since day one. And Willie Brown, very powerful assemblyman in California. They dated a long time. And I'll tell you what, if Willie's like any other man on earth, if he's got a girlfriend he wants to keep, he's going to help her out. And he helped out Kamala Harris. But that's, I'll tell you, that's kind of the way the world works. They were single people. I think, well, wait a minute. Let's see. I don't think Willie was. No, Willie wasn't a single guy. But we're going to go to the phones. AM 1400 KVFD, good afternoon. You're on the air.
Yeah, you said Kamala Harris didn't come from privilege. Her folks were the upper class in India.
Okay.
They looked down on everybody else.
How do you know that? How do you know that they look down on everybody else?
Because there's 3 classes of people in India. I don't remember what the names of them were.
Okay.
But there was the upper class, the middle class, and then the lower class.
Oh, the idea that the United States or India or Russia or China is a classless society is a joke. Nobody in the Democratic Party ever talks about social and economic class. All they want to do is talk about their little programs that are going to help minorities and women. Bull. And
but you said Kamala Harris came from poor people.
Hey.
Did not come from poor people.
Hey, if you want to correct me, that's fine, but I know her background. And upper middle class in India means something entirely different than upper middle class in the United States.
Yeah, but it's still the privileged class.
What's that?
It's still privileged class.
She never had it so good as Jane Fonda did. She never had it so good as Nancy Pelosi. She never had it so good as Elizabeth Warren or any of the leading lights of feminism today.
They say her mother was a poor single mom. She had money coming from.
Easy with the language. Easy with the language. Now I don't mind you getting your opinion, but easy with the language.
What, because she came from India?
No, you let something slip there. You let a profanity slip. Listen.
Missed it.
Listen to the tape. I'm recording, so listen to the tape on my Facebook page later. You'll hear you slip. That's okay. It happens.
But anyway, she's not from poor people. She's from money.
Well, I haven't seen that. I'm going to have to respectfully disagree.
Look up Kamala Harris's grandparents.
I will.
And on her mother's side in India.
Well,
and on her father's side in Jamaica. They were both money.
Now, you're talking her grandparents in another country? That's kind of stretching a little bit. I know it. I mean,
Her grandparents in Jamaica, they were slave owners.
her grandparents in Jamaica were slave owners, really?
Her father's father was a plantation owner in Jamaica and had owned slaves. It was 124 slaves.
I didn't know that. And I have to admit, I'll tell you what, I will tell you.
Her parents were the upper class in India.
I'm going to tell you something that you might find a little frightening. If Kamala Harris was the presidential candidate, she'd be beating President Trump right now. I mean, Joe Biden was a terrible choice. The Democrats beat themselves, and it's my pleasure. And it will be my pleasure if the day after Election Day, they get beat again.
And there's no coronavirus in China.
There's no coronavirus?
No. If you believe Kamala Harris and Trump are ahead of, or Kamala Harris and Biden are ahead of Trump, there's no coronavirus in China.
I'm not trying to be argumentative with you, but China's a police state and they control the media. And if they can't control the media or they find something that slips out, they're likely to have someone killed, and everybody in China knows that. It's difficult to get a straight shot out of China.
Crematoriums are that where they cremate people.
Yeah.
They're running 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
In China?
In China.
What does that mean to you?
It means they're lying.
So there is coronavirus in China, or there isn't?
I'm trying to be sarcastic about the coronavirus.
Oh, you were being sarcastic. Okay, I'm sorry. So as someone who's snarky and sarcastic themselves, I'm surprised I didn't catch that. Sorry.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, they're. Ask Terry Branstad what it's like in China.
Well, if I see him, I will.
He'd tell you. He's been on CNN, I think it was, and they didn't like what he said.
Well, CNN is, the media have come out of this entire 4 years of Trump with egg on their face. They have ruined their own reputation. It's obvious that they're extremely hostile to anything other than traditional upper middle class, liberal, self-serving thinking, and they're not worth listening to, frankly. People make Fox News is fake. Fox News. Oh, come on, man. Have you ever listened to MSNBC? Have you ever watched the late night show with Stephen Colbert? I mean, Jimmy Fallon and Jimmy Kimmel both had to apologize for wearing blackface in a skit years ago. I think that's great. I think they should apologize. I don't think their apologies should be accepted. I think they should step down from their TV shows.
Well, look at Joy Blowhard on the View.
I can't. She's too ugly. I'm sorry. She's just gross. She's just.
She was in blackface.
Yeah, she was. I'm trying to get away from name calling, but that woman is just gross, and she's the loudest one who talks the most, and I can't deal with it.
Sonny's worse.
Who is?
Sonny Holstein.
Oh, I don't watch the show. I really don't. I don't watch a lot of television talk shows. I still listen to Rush. I've never listened to Glenn Beck. I listen to Hugh Hewitt, who is excellent. He's a Catholic intellectual and conservative, and I think he's terrific. If you haven't heard him, and I understand you're probably not Catholic, but he's really a terrific guy. He doesn't base anything that he says on Catholicism, but as a Catholic, I can see where he's getting some of his information and ideology. Hey, I want to thank you for your call. Who do you think is going to win the presidential election?
Well, if you want to have a world or United States worth living in, you better hope it's Trump.
Do you think it's going to be Trump?
Better be. If it's not, we're screwed.
Well, that's what the Democrats thought about Trump. And the Republic stands. The Republic stands not because of a bunch of blow-dried, in Biden's case and Pelosi's case, they both had a lot of face work done. It's not because of really media personalities like that. I mean, Nancy Pelosi's like 81 years old. Why is she still in office? Because she likes people to ask her opinion. She loves to go out and address the little people. Oh, I'm the great woman Pelosi, and here I am. I'm going to address you little people. She loves that stuff. 81 years old. Patrick Leahy, he must be 100. I don't know. Some of these people will not give it up.
When has a Democrat said anything intelligent?
Now, that's a loaded question. I do recall, against the backgrounds of the Amy Coney Barrett hearings that are on right now, Dianne Feinstein, who's still a senator from California, and she's over 90. I think she's in her mid 90s. Dianne Feinstein in 2017 accused Amy Coney Barrett of having the Catholic dogma allowed within her. I mean, nobody calls Dianne Feinstein a Jew or insinuates there's anything wrong with being a Jew, because there isn't anything wrong with being a Jew. But this woman feels compelled to say that Catholicism is an inferior religion. I don't have any time for people like that. I don't. Hey, thank you for your call. Appreciate it.
Yep.
All right. The news is next. We're going to try to get Senator Tim Kreinbrink in here, along with State Senator Randy Feast and Representative Ann Meyer. I think that's coming up. I think it is. Joe Coleman will be coming as well. Joe Coleman will be our guest today as well. So we're looking at a good afternoon and a good day. This is AM 1400 KVFD, the voice for us.
DeMoines.com/trial.
Upper Des Moines is now taking applications for Alpha Media's Bikes for Dykes 2020 event. Their office is still closed to the public, so you must apply for a bike for your child by calling Upper Des Moines Opportunity now through November 20th at 576-7774.
Michael Devine, the Doctor of Truth.
Does anyone have anything they'd like to confess?
At AM 1400 KVFD.
That's right. I'm the Doctor of Truth, Michael Devine, and I certainly have some esteemed guests here with me today. Senator Tim Kreinbrink. We'll go left to right. How are you over there, Tim? It's just not your way to me. It's just not in your character to remain so silent. You've been silent almost since you got in the building. What's going on?
I'm turning over a new leaf.
Why?
The man of reason, remember?
You're the voice of reason.
Yeah.
You're the voice of reason. I forgot all about that.
Yeah.
Why didn't we bring Scrappy
Scrappy
over here?
Scrappy's probably out in the field.
He's out in the field.
Crawled under a combine someplace. Who knows?
He takes these elections way too easily.
Yeah.
You know.
And every other second he has. Hi, Mike. By the way, I know you're listening.
Is he listening over there?
Oh, I'm sure he is. But every other second he's out campaigning. You know how it is. He works 24/7. The guy's works for his people.
He works. He's a man of the people who works for his people.
Nonstop for his people.
Okay, that's enough political slogans for the rest of my life. Also here is Representative Ann Meyer. Come on.
Hey, Mike.
It's more in your nature not to speak much, I know. But how's your campaign going?
The campaign's going great. I want to remind everyone to come up to the chili supper tonight at Fort
Yeah,
Frenzy.
exactly.
Doors open at 5:00. We start serving at 5:30. And Senator Feenstra, future Congressman Feenstra will be there speaking as well.
All right. And State Senator Randy Feenstra, who has been the Republican nominee for the 4th Congressional seat, is with us. Always great to see you, Randy.
Hey, it's great to be here. And it was just fun the last couple hours. We've been touring the town and going seeing the Agricultural Research Park and going up and down Main Street. What an amazing community. And I told Dennis Pluth and others that I want to be the advocate for Fort Dodge and Webster County. And there's a lot of things that are going on economically, and we just have to continue to make it grow.
Senator Feenstra has revealed a flaw in his character. He's a St. Louis Cardinal fan, but there's plenty of folks here in town that will think that's great. Including
we're going to do a little walk after this.
Where are you going?
We're going to walk up to the Dairyette and have a little ice cream cone.
Oh.
So you can see how many listeners you have. If all of you want to come up and shake Randy's hand.
Which Dairyette are you talking about?
The Dairyette. The Dairyette.
The
up on 12th and
up
Central.
on 12th. Okay, because isn't there another Dairyette in town? Maybe
not a Dairyette, but there's a not a Dairy Queen either. Oh yeah, down at Tom Thumbs. But then there's another.
So you're going up to the
we're going up to Rich and Joe's.
Rich
and Joe's conglomerate there on that pointer corner. So just kind of look through some of the businesses there. Show Randy what we have in Fort Dodge.
Excellent. I do want to talk to you about this, Randy, because it's a topic of conversation around our town. Congressman King, who you defeated for the Republican nomination, was good to Webster County. He visited us regularly. He did a lot for us. He was accessible to us. When some of our local people went to Washington, they got to spend a lot of time with Congressman King. We are concerned that we're going to lose that. What are your plans for Webster County in our immediate area? Because the Congressional 4th is a big one. What are your plans for our area?
Yeah. Well, that's. I'm glad to hear that. I am no different. I look at Fort Dodge as such a, I look at it as an emerald in the 4th district of all the things that are going on. Just went through the research park and all the facilities that are out there and possibly others that are coming, all these attractions, businesses, but they all also are connected federally. I mean, government regulation, taxes, oversight, especially when you're dealing with things like biodiesel and ethanol and chemicals. A lot of regulation goes into that. So I will be a passionate supporter, and I look forward to having conversations about what I can do for Fort Dodge and make a difference and deliver results here.
Well, ethanol is a big deal in our state, and we have, I don't know how many ethanol plants we have in the Congressional 4th, but I think it's several. I think it's more than any other district.
It is. And
I've been kind of tuned into this with the Farm Bureau and the pork producers and some of the guys I talk to. We need a representative who makes us heard in Washington as far as the ethanol business is concerned.
And it's amazing when we talk about clean energy. We hear this all the time, right? From all sides, clean energy. ethanol is the cleanest form of energy you can have. I mean, and then everybody says, well, if we had wind energy, we just had a battery. You think about the corn kernel, that's the battery. It stores energy and we just extract it. So if we can just push the agenda of how ethanol is clean and how it's productive and how it can be used. I know the petroleum industry loves to shout and all this stuff, but we've got something very incredible what we're making here out of corn.
A renewable fuel.
Renewable fuels, not only corn, soybeans, and fats and stuff like that. It's amazing what we have in the 4th district here.
Yeah.
We are number 1 in the nation when it comes to ethanol and biodiesel.
I'm sure you know Bill Horn. He pointed out many times over the years. Bill was a regular on this show for 3 years. And he's kind of stepped away. He's retired pretty much now. But anyway, Bill always said that the oil company people or their representatives, John Cronin and all those sorts of all those guys, they're lobbyists for the oil business. I understand that. Cronin's from Texas. We just want to make sure that everybody that represents Iowa is representing ethanol. If we can come together around a unifying theme, I hope it's ethanol.
Yeah. And you think about ethanol and biodiesel, you think of all these things. They're successful. Our producers are successful. Our producers are successful. Our main streets, our schools, our hospitals, all these things. And Representative Meyer and Senator Kreinbrink, I mean, they've done an amazing job in the legislature advocating for Fort Dodge. And I want to be along with them at the federal level, making sure that we get it done.
Yeah, that's great to hear. I'm going to throw a little bit of a curveball at you. As these guys know, I do that every now and then. You're ready. You're in the batting stand.
I didn't know Cubs could throw curveballs.
Yeah. Come on now.
Just a little outside.
If it's not a football, you don't know how to throw.
That's true. And I usually threw it to the other team.
No, I don't believe that. But anyway, President Trump recently suspended federal support for diversity training. He believes it's racist. Now, I don't know about racist, but I do believe that diversity training is unnecessary and is horribly slanted toward guilting white children and making our ancestors, yours, mine, and everybody. And I realize we're all white people in the room. It makes our ancestors look like they were terrible people. And I just remember my grandmother worried about having enough to eat in the Great Depression. I mean, there were terrible hardships that occurred in frontier and prairie life years ago. Now to have those people denounced as somehow evil or racist is rather sickening, at least to me. I'm not trying to put words in your mouth. But what do you think of President Trump's decision on diversity training?
I just want to say this. We're Americans.
Yes.
We're all Americans. Take off the titles. All the titles. We're Americans. We need to be unified. We need to be together. And when we're together, we can do great things in this nation. Right? We don't need to stand up and jab and pound on somebody else. We're together in this. We're all together. And there's diversity in every community, whether that be male, female, whatever. Beside the point, we are all together as Americans trying to create a better society. And it comes with me as my faith being unified, showing love and kindness and humbleness. God created us all in his image. Mm-hmm. And that's where I look at it and say, all right, I'm an image bearer and so is everybody else.
Yeah. Well, I'm not trying to make this an issue, but the I don't know what your opponent's position is other than he struggles with whiteness. Now, I don't even know what that means.
I think, Mike, a lot of it comes back to maybe a slap in our parents and us that are parents.
I do take it personally.
in our face because we
that.
worked hard to raise our children right, and my mom and dad, I know, and my grandpa and grandma worked hard to raise all of us correct, and they raised us to respect everyone. Mm-hmm. And I don't ever remember before I got to the legislature the legislature, some of them there being so intent on creating special classes. Creating a special class leaves others out. And I don't care what type of class you're trying to protect, it still doesn't protect everyone. And I think that's what Randy's getting at, is we are all humans. We are all children of God. We deserve the respect and love, that we were raised to give everyone. And I think that's a special class enough right there.
That's right. And it strips you of your individuality as well. And all of a sudden you're part of a group. And I don't mind being a white man, but I'd like to be an individual first. I think that's a great promise of our country, that we can, as people, speak and think as we wish.
And each person can aspire to what they want to
Yes,
be.
that's right.
And that's what makes America great.
That is what makes America great.
That's the very foundation of what our country is all about.
That's correct. There's a chance to innovate, a chance to, I stumbled across a guy the other day who started a business as a window washer. There's real demand. A lot of our homes a lot of our homes have older people in it, 2-story houses, and he just got an idea. He was out of work because of the COVID virus. So,
but you look at Fort Dodge and the entrepreneurial spirit that we're just talking about, all the different industries in this community. It's just phenomenal of people having that desire of saying, "Hey, I want to start a business." Now, there's risk and reward, and that's part of capitalism.
Yes,
but you know what? When there's reward, I mean, amazing things can happen. But it starts with having an idea and inspiring to do it.
I failed a lot of times in life. There's no greater satisfaction than getting off the ground after many failures and succeeding.
That's right.
That's a
If
great.
you fail enough, you become a radio show.
That's right. That's right.
You're successful.
One of my big fans over here.
We love you.
Back off, farm manager. Anyway, Sam Clovis and I were talking. You know Sam.
Yep.
And Sam's a great conservative. Unfortunately, he's been up at the VA hospital in Sioux Falls for quite a long time now. But Sam and I believe that Joni Ernst is in trouble. And we believe that Joni Ernst is in trouble because she seems to have forgotten about us a little bit. And you know how we are in Iowa. We like to see the people that represent us. What can you say about the Joni Ernst candidacy as opposed to Teresa Greenfield?
Well, I'll just say I know Joni Ernst. Joni Ernst and I sat next to each other in the Iowa Senate.
Oh, really?
And I tell you what, she was an amazing leader there. And being the first female combat veteran in the United States Senate, being a lieutenant colonel, that tells you a little something about her DNA.
Yeah.
And she put her boots in the sand. I mean, she did it. And I have a tremendous amount of respect for that. And people have to, I mean, when you are in the Senate, I mean, I'm in the 4th district, I have 39 counties. When you're in the U.S. Senate, you have 99 counties. It is tough to get everywhere in every place. And I would just say that from my heart, I know Senator Ernst, she's a noble, passionate person that wants to do what's best for Iowa. And that's why I'm supporting her. And I'm so thrilled to be part of helping her get across the finish line.
Yeah.
I think too, Mike, a lot of people are getting caught up in the advertisements that are out there. It's 2 to 1. When it's 2 to 1, that means it takes twice as much money on her side to run that many ads. Well, those ads aren't coming. That money's not coming from the normal person on a $50 or a $20 or a $5 contribution. This money's coming from the minority, the Senate minority.
120 million.
And you know what? If that money's coming from them to get her elected, don't tell me that she's going to have her own mind and be open to Republicans and Democrats, because that's not true. She has to do something or pay back for that money, and that payback is going to be loyalty to the people that got her elected. So I think we have to look at that with a grain of salt. There's a lot of money that's there, but a lot of that money isn't coming from the state of Iowa. It's coming from outside interest that want her in there to be a puppet for Chuck Schumer.
You think I'm going to forget that just a radio announcer remark, don't you? What you're making a funny face over there, Ann.
Oh,
What?
no. I want to piggyback on what Senator Greinbrink said. There is a lot of outside money coming into the all the Democrat candidates in the state. I mean, the House alone has $200 million coming from the East Coast and the West Coast. One of them we talked last week about being Bloomberg's PAC. That's $1 million just to flip the Iowa House from New York.
Yeah, that's true. Well, who are your biggest contributors? I'll get to you with the same question, Senator Feenster. And who are your biggest contributors? Where are they from? My
biggest contributor is the previous owner of my bank, Richard Stark. He's given me $5,000 this year.
Well, he can do better than that.
I'm sorry. He gave me, I don't want to misrepresent. He did give me $10,000 this year. But other than that, I have raised a lot. You can look at my disclosures when they come out on the 19th. I have pages from in Fort Dodge.
Okay.
Yeah. So I've got a lot of local contributors that are very supportive.
Okay. So Randy, is the devil himself on your contributors list or what?
No.
Good.
No, thank goodness. No, I have 2,900 Iowa contributors, and my largest contributors are from my hometown and from Sioux County, and they're, real farmers, are people that I work for, and they saw that I can make a difference, whether that be for the ag producers or small business. And that's what I want to do in Congress. I want to deliver and make a difference.
So who could win a race between you and Cranbrink? You? I'm betting on you, Randy.
Ooh, on a straight running race?
Straight running.
I got a new hip.
Come on. I tell you what, I'll give him this. He'd beat me in the 100, maybe the short distance.
Let's do wrestling.
But long distance, I might get you. All right,
He wants to do wrestling.
I'll do basketball. How about that?
Oh, then he'd call in his brother.
Yeah, this is true.
All right. We have a question from the listening audience. As a matter of fact, we're on Ustream, not Ustream, but we're on StreamYard right now. And you can see as well as hear what's happening in the studio by going to my Facebook page, AM 1400 KVFD, your Fort Dodge website here in town, in one other place, but I forgot.
Get to the question, would you?
Just calm down and you'll get your wrestling match over there. I'm sorry, were you about to say something?
No. I was just looking at the.
So your biggest contributors are who, sir?
So biggest contributor, like I said, they're local business people and farmers in my community, that have contributed to my campaign, which that just tells you it's local hometown people.
Okay. The people in Lamar's that run the dairy there, what is their name? I forgot them.
Wells Blue Bunny.
Wells Blue Bunny.
Yes.
And they're owned by the Wells family.
That is correct.
And they were big campaign contributors to Congressman King, as I recall. Are they campaign contributors to you?
They're significant contributors to myself also.
Good. I admire the Wells family.
Yeah.
I do have a question for the listening audience on my StreamYard post. Could the guests, this is the question, could the guests give us an overview of their positions on mental health for those already in office? Could they also give us some example of actions they've taken with regards to the issue, and can all tell us what they plan to do if they are victorious in fall? Good question, really.
I'm going to actually say that Representative Meyer and I just had a long conversation about this, and I'm going to actually yield the floor to her. She is an expert in this area and has done a lot of work, but we have some really mental health issues right now, concerns when it has to deal with beds and stuff like that. But
I'm just going to talk about two of the pieces of legislation that I've gotten signed by the governor in the last 2 years. The first one, which I'm really proud of, is the ability for mental health services to be delivered to children in schools via telehealth. I think that's very important. We know that access is an issue, especially in rural Iowa. And I think if kids can get that access in schools, they're going to be that much more ahead. We know that if we treat these issues when they're kids, they're going to hopefully not have so many issues as an adult. That's one thing. Number two, I've said it over and over again when I've been on the radio here with you, and I really appreciate Supervisor Mark Campbell worked with me for the past 2 years with our mental health region that we belong to right now. But just that in June, we added some legislation. Well, we introduced legislation. I introduced the legislation in February, but it was added to our omnibus budget bill at the end of the session that allowed Webster County specifically to either leave the region that we're in and form a new region with certain restrictions, or they can also join another region. But we specifically made it allowable for them to keep their reserve funds when they go join another region or form another region. And that's important because County Social Services was going to be a rule that they were going to keep those reserve funds. And here we would be Webster County not having any money to join a new region, just to contribute or to start a new region. Those are two things that I've done last year. I also passed some legislation that removed pre-authorizations for substance abuse treatment. You didn't have to wait for 72 hours if you wanted to get in and get clean. I was just talking about to Senator Feenstra about some federal legislation that I expect him to get done when he's in
Absolutely.
Congress, which we have some federal drawdowns, which is just if you keep a certain bed level. I've talked to Leah out at the Glasgow out at the hospital. She identified one of the main problems was if we increase the bed number, we lose those federal dollars. We need to carve out just for mental health beds. So
I want to
that's
ask
what I want to go forward with.
Losing Pastor Henderson the way we did was a knife in the heart to our community. And I don't think I've ever been the same. Oh, you're giving that to Tim right now. Huh?
That was his pastor, and he.
I understand. So whoever wants this question can do it. But what have you done specifically, or what will you do specifically to prevent what happened to Pastor Henderson from happening again? We had a seriously mentally ill man, and he was roaming the streets. Different agencies had turned him away for help, and he killed Pastor Henderson.
So what the police will tell you, what all law enforcement will tell you is they know about people on the streets that need mental health, and they take them to jail. That's not a treatment for them.
No, of course.
We need inpatient beds. That's the thing going forward. I think that we need to work with our federal delegation to make sure we have access to those.
I think those of you, and I know Ann kind of skipped by it pretty quickly, but I don't know how many of you understand this, but you can have so many beds, and if you have more than that you offer for mental health, you lose federal funding. And instead of getting more funding for having more beds, if you click over a certain amount, you lose your federal funding. And that's what I think Ann is asking Randy to look into, to say, you know what, it actually disincentivizes our hospital out here to actually provide more beds and care for our local and district mentally ill, because they receive less funds if they flip over a certain amount of occupants. So it's just a common sense thing that I think any one of us that have a business or trying to grow a business or trying to help somebody, you think the more you help someone, the more you should get paid. And this is the more you help somebody, the less you get paid, which just does not make sense. So I don't know, we don't always have people, in elected positions that, like Ann's always said, I'm more of the numbers guy. I like talking about budgets and those type of things. She likes healthcare, and Mike likes farming, and Randy is excellent in Ways and Means. I mean, he's a tax expert and basically wrote our tax reduction bill that gives each of the families in the state of Iowa more money in their paycheck each week. And so you've got people down there that all kind of have their own expertise, but Randy will know when he gets there who he needs to talk to make sure that this problem is fixed, so that those people that are having the problems that you're talking about are able to get the help that they need and not released until they're safe. Now, in that situation, if he stopped taking, or someone stopped taking their medication, how do you know? You can't solve every single problem that comes up just because, if someone starts feeling better, they stop taking their medication. They get back in that cycle. They don't know what's happening to them, and something bad happens. Those things do happen, and we can't prevent every single one of them. But we can do better, Mike.
Yes,
we can do better.
In this particular case, this young man was known to have problems. His mother called the police. More than once. I don't know if it's a delicate balance between mental health care and law enforcement, but he got through the cracks somehow, and it was.
I know one thing: the answer is not defunding the police. I mean, it's not defunding the police.
Well, I was going to talk with Senator Freeser about the lunatic fringe out there that's trying to mainstream, but go ahead, Randy.
No, I was going to say this is a really, really serious issue, and I know as our legislature, we've been dealing with it for over the last 5 years, and we continue to make strides, but we're a long ways. We're a long ways from getting it to where we need to be. And as Representative Meyer and Senator Kreinbrink said, we do need more beds. We need it where a sheriff or somebody, the hospital has somebody that needs a bed, ASAP. We got to find that. And it can't be that, okay, now we got to transport this person 4 hours away. That doesn't work.
Yeah, another thing that the legislature did here in the last couple of years is, for younger students in the school that may have to be taken out to go 35 miles to a doctor's appointment for an evaluation and receive their medication. A lot of that stuff we're able to do now in the schools with telehealth. So the child can go down to a room and have a telehealth visit and not take that time out of school, not spend the time on the road, and be back and going a lot quicker. So we're making strides. There's a lot of things that we feel we can do better. Our poor teachers, they're doing everything from tying shoes before they go out to recess. Velcro would be nice for every kid to have it so they could do their own shoes. But, that, and they're dealing with mental health. They're dealing with food. Kids come to school malnourished. We're trying to do backpack buddies to help some of those families out. Our teachers are basically everything to everybody, and that's kind of unfair for us to ask them, to take on additional hats when they're already wearing 5 or 6 of them already. So, we all know I was a teacher, and not lately, but I think times have changed, and our teachers do a really, really great job, with what they have available.
Some of our older people, especially me, are familiar with Velcro. You should be more sensitive to the issues there. Senator, well, I have a question here from a man I know, a text, and I'm going to rephrase it because he's an obvious Democrat. And I can't ask it the way he wants it asked. Do you support President Trump, and why? You don't have to take all day, but do you support President Trump, and why?
So for myself, I support President Trump, and you look at his policies, right? Look at the policies. Look what he has done when it comes to business, when it comes to helping families. We had the largest income tax cut in Iowa history. We had one of the largest federal tax cuts under President Trump. The deregulation, for the first time ever, virtually, did somebody stand up for our country and say, you know what, we have the unfair trade deals. It's ridiculous.
That's right.
And he drew a line in the sand and said, enough's enough. And you know what? This is going to help for generations to come. I was just looking today, and it was noted that of the first phase, that was $36 billion. And right now we're at about $15 billion. We're halfway. And China came off their holiday break this past Monday, and all of a sudden we're seeing more and more purchases of corn and soybeans. So it's coming, and we're going to look, I think, generations down the road and say, wow, that was a big deal when President Trump finally put the line in the sand.
And
how about the peace deals that he's getting put together and taking our military back to the United States? I mean, this is something that's been promised for years, and nobody was able to deliver. And he does. And, these are things that are huge. But, I back President Trump full-heartedly for a guy that has been targeted for 4.5 years, and then everybody says, not everybody, but the other side says that he lies all the time. But when you ask him what he lies about, they can't tell you. Okay, they can't tell you the lie. But yet you can look at lies that are president, or not president, but the former Vice President Biden has said fracking. We're not going to have fracking. Now I'm going to have fracking. So who's lying? And I just don't understand that you can just be so angry at someone for so long, and look at his record of all the great things that he stood up for America. He doesn't take a salary. He gives his salary away every quarter to a charity. And people say he's doing this just for fame. He has hotels in most of the major countries.
How much more famous?
What kind of fame is he looking for? I just don't understand how people can get up in the morning and be so angry every day. It can't be good for your health, but they're so angry and they hate this man so much that it just baffles my mind. I tell people, and they tell me, oh, he just shouldn't text this, it shouldn't text that. For somebody that's been a target and now we're finding out Hillary was the one that was involved with Russia. It wasn't Donald Trump. Of course, that's a lie too. Okay. But, now we're finding out all this stuff, that he was targeted with no reason of even being targeted. And he has withstood all of this for 4.5 years, and he still fights for us every single day. man, I want to be on that team.
And he's a
I want to
fighter
be on
there.
that team.
I heard Rick Wilson last night on 60 Minutes, and Wilson is part of a group along with Steve Schmidt, who are former Republican analysts as they and faithful members of the Republican Party. So they say. But Wilson said in response to questions about his group, a bunch of Republicans fighting the Trump reelection, that he said his ads are hateful because hate works, which is a sad commentary. And that's coming mainly from the left. I haven't seen a lot of hate from the Trump campaign. I don't know if maybe there has. Would you like to get in on the Trump train there, Ann, or not?
I'll just go. I agree with what both of the senators said, but I also wanted to just point out one thing that Trump did, which I don't know why people don't remember this. Everyone talks about helping veterans. Trump was the one who got it so, and I can't remember the name of the act, but he got so veterans, if they couldn't get care at the VA, they can get care locally. They can get care where they can get in. And that's, if anything, we should support our veterans who fought for our country. He's doing it.
Well, that'll be $5 a piece. Thank you. No, but if you want hatred and lies, they're still out there on some campaign advertising that Donald Trump called veterans losers and suckers at our national cemetery for veterans. I mean, it's disgrace.
How can you get away with that? It's already, it's been debunked, and
Yeah.
he says it in the presidential debate, and it's been debunked. And he calls Trump a liar, and he's standing up there saying this. I'm thinking, okay, are we that far apart? There's so much division, and it just seems like they're trying to divide us more.
Randy Feenstra is here along with Tim Kreinbrink and Ann Meyer. Randy, we're running out of time, but I did want to give you the last word on taxes. You're an accountant. My accountant buddy up in Okoboji thinks you're God. So are our taxes too high, or not high enough, or just right?
Well, I think typically taxes are always too high. I mean, if you want to grow an economy, bottom line, if you want to grow an economy, you give somebody more money. And the more money they have, the more successful a town can be, a hospital can be. And when people have money, they can also be philanthropic, that they give to the church, they give to the hospital or the schools. And that's where I want people to have their money. Government right now, people don't realize this, but if you're a family, 35% of your money goes to taxes, whether it be income tax, property tax, sales tax. If you're a business, 55 to 60% of it goes to tax. That's ridiculous. That means if you profit $100, $60 of it is going to tax. That's crazy.
Yeah, that doesn't work for me. Tim Kreinbrink, Randy Feenstra, and Meyer, thank you so much for being here. It's going to be the Roush family chili feed tonight at what time? 5:30?
Yep. Doors open at 5.
Fort Frenzy.
All right. It's 4 o'clock. The news is next. You're listening to AM 1400 KVFD.
The campaign trail heats up again. I'm Lisa Brady, Fox News. Making 2 stops in battleground Ohio today, Democratic nominee Joe Biden is laying into President Trump for his handling of coronavirus, saying he doesn't know what he's doing and that we could lose another 200.
is you, isn't it, Joe?
Yes, it is, Mike. How are you?
Well, I'm real good. Joe, as I just mentioned, is a Catholic and a deacon in his church, and he has been a contributor these last several months to this program, which I very, very much appreciate. And like Pastor Hill, Joe and I discuss being Christian men in a world that isn't rapidly changing.
How are you?
Hello.
I've got to cut you off. I spent the afternoon here at home watching you on Facebook on your live stream. It was wonderful.
Okay. What, you mean you're not going to be on anymore?
No. I was watching you with your guests and going through all the things that you did, and it was spectacular. It was the first time I've done that, Mike.
Oh, okay.
It was very enjoyable.
Oh, good. I'm glad you.
I was going to say I probably ought to have my lawyer hat on instead of my deacon hat on today.
Well, we can do that too. I mean, I appreciate both sides of you, so to speak.
Well, it's interesting. I listen to everything, and the most important thing that we do, and you and I have talked about this repeatedly, is to try and to look at the truth and find out what the truth is. Okay, and the facts should indicate what the truth is. And I just was writing down a number of things that your prior guests were talking about. One of the things that I found exceedingly interesting was all of the benefits that have accrued to the veterans under the Trump administration.
Mm-hmm.
And the largest veteran benefit package since the GI Bill in World War II was basically the Veterans Relief Act.
Mm-hmm.
President Trump has been talking about that all over the country. And he's been talking about how much he did, and he did so much for it that he wanted a picture of him signing the bill. The bill was signed in 2014 by Barack Obama.
Whoops.
Yeah, whoops. Exactly. Whoops. And I listened with great amount of interest the candidate for Congress who was running and who was talking about what happened with the trade deficit to China, which has essentially gutted our Iowa farmers, because 25% tariff means that the American manufacturer, the American consumer, pays that 25%. Not one yuan is paid by China, not one penny. It's all paid by the Americans. And I listened with even greater interest when we were talking about the troops that were brought back from the Middle East and these foreign wars. I don't know, today there was an announcement made that there has been not one iota of troop difference in the last 3.5 years.
Okay, Joe.
Not one.
No, okay. Now I'm going to stop you there because I'm going to bring up something that you know to be true. The Democratic Party has separated itself completely from Catholic moral teaching. Amy Coney Barrett right now is testifying or giving her presentation as to why she should be the next Associate Justice of the U.S. Supreme Court. And you know very well the Democratic Party is working feverishly to prevent her from being on the court because she's a Catholic. And as a Catholic, she believes that abortion is wrong. As a Catholic, she believes perhaps gay relationships are wrong. There are a lot of moral positions that the church has never backed off of that the Democratic Party dismisses as racist or a relic, or what did that person say a few years ago about Catholicism? A relic of the Middle Ages, yeah. So the Democratic Party.
Mike, that's not, that in my judgment is not the position of the Democratic Party. I know full well what you're saying, that the Democrats are opposed to Barrett because of her position on abortion. I understand that. And you and I have talked about that. And there's no light between your position and my position on the concept of abortion. But most recently, a number of Catholic bishops throughout the United States have come out and said, hey, this whole thing about politics and one-dimensional, one-issue politics flies in the face of the demand to love each other, because abortion is one issue of many issues.
As far as their position on American culture, the Democratic Party seems to despise it. And what they're referring to my ear, is the Christian heritage in American culture. Do you see it that way?
Yeah, you know, Mike, that's a tough question. I could say to you, well, let's look at the facts. Okay, we have Joe Biden, who's running as a Catholic. We have appointments to the United States Supreme Court by Barack Obama that were Catholic. Both of the two women appointed to the Supreme Court by Barack Obama were Catholic.
Well, those are image appointments. So those ladies don't, those women don't rule as Catholic, or not rule. Well, I guess I should say rule. Yeah, the Supreme Court is the last holdout of monarchy in the Western Hemisphere. But
it's easy to categorize things and to say, well, I think this means this. One of the things that goes on, and you and I have talked about this before, we were talking about Justice Katie. One of the things that goes on is that judges are bound to respect precedent. And you and I both know that there have been many rulings by the United States Supreme Court that clearly have been just off the wall.
Off the wall completely. Associate Justice Kennedy is a Catholic. And he ruled, and he even said before his ruling, or before his fifth vote on the gay marriage at the federal level, that he had to think long and hard about overturning a tradition that had been with us for 2 millennia, and he did it anyway. That's arrogance.
So the question is always going to be, should a judge follow the law, or should a judge follow his concept of morality? That has always been where the rub has been, Mike.
Well,
and it goes, I can argue both sides of that issue, as I'm sure you can too. But if you believe in stare decisis, that concept that once decided, an issue stays decided, should you follow that? That's been a polar star of the American judiciary for 200 years.
Not if you believe in that the Constitution is a living document that must change as our culture changes.
You are so right. But you know that the conservatives, a la Scalia, have never believed that. They believe that the Constitution was written and you have to interpret things in terms of it being a document which is quite rigid. Wouldn't you agree?
I have seen too many weird decisions. God, William O. Douglas was a true eccentric. I mean, I think it was the abortion decision in '73, where William O. Douglas justified his decision in Roe versus Wade because there were penumbras emanating from the Constitution. For God's sake, I was like 23. I didn't know what he was talking about. I had to look it up. Right. And once I did, I thought, well, he's crazy.
You know what we talked about when we first started this conversation, Mike?
What was that?
Facts are the facts, and the truth is the truth.
That's right.
And the difficulty has been, as it has always been in politics, whose ox is being gored. And
I don't think it's that, Joe. I don't think it's that. I think the truth has been called into question by attorneys who tell us they're Catholic on the United States Supreme Court.
Well, I don't, in terms of Roe versus Wade, I don't have any argument with that. I don't have any argument with that. I think it was a decision that was rendered incorrectly, and you and I have talked about that. But the fact of the matter is once the rendering happened, and we have had multiple decisions down the line, judges get caught in that bifurcated problem of, do I stand with stare decisis, or do I rule differently in accordance with my conscience?
In Iowa in 1974, the Supreme Court was presented with a petition of marriage by two gay men, and they refused even to hear it because they thought it was preposterous. Now, you and I were younger men in those days, Joe. It's not like, I mean, this is from ancient history or something. We're still here.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And the fact of the matter is that, once again, we go back to the truth and we go back to fact. When we look at this thing historically, marriage has always been the very derivation of the word marriage means a union between man and woman, period. That is the fact.
Yeah, that's right. And when we talk about the truth, where does the truth come from?
The truth ultimately emanates from the Creator.
Of course.
It is his lifeblood.
That's right. The truth comes from the Creator. And we have judges who are telling us it doesn't. This is the truth. This is the truth. I know because I'm a lawyer. I mean, God, okay, that he said that, but I'm a lawyer, so here we go. This is the new truth. And you're bound not by your faith, not by your belief, not by a command from the Creator, but from me. That's
well, you and I both know that that's error. We are bound to the truth as set forth by the Creator, not only in nature, but in his laws and in his traditions, which have been handed down to us for thousands of years. Now, that might seem a bit archaic, and that might seem a bit hocus pocus, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact of the matter is the truth in the testing of those principles has been constant for centuries. For centuries. Those societies which have moved away from that have found themselves to ultimately wind up in disarray. Those societies which have remained true to fundamental things like protecting your neighbor, being truthful, not lying, respecting the family, those societies have thrived. You know that, and I know that.
Now we have personal truth, subjective truth, not objective truth, but subjective truth. This is my truth, we're told. And my truth is different from your truth because I'm a member of this group and you're not, or whatever. So the truth itself has been assaulted successfully.
Absolutely. And a fellow by the name of George Orwell told us that was coming 60 years ago, did he not?
He did.
And, you know, I listened to the debates the other night between Kamala Harris and Vice President Pence, and I agreed with Vice President Pence in one of the things that he had to say. I know you'll be surprised by this. You're entitled to your own facts, but you're not entitled to your own truth. You know, there's a lot of truth in that. You know, you have to seek the truth in all things. And that's one of the things that our church teaches, Mike. Seek the truth in all things. That's why Christ said in that most, you know, that little sentence he gave when he said, I am the way, I am the truth.
I am the truth.
I am the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. And think how important he must have placed the concept of truth to be.
Yes, I couldn't agree with you more. I am the light, the truth, and the way. That doesn't mean that's something that somebody who believes or tells us they're Catholic should reconsider for any reason. I don't believe how do you pronounce it? Stereodesis. I've seen that and heard that term over the years many times. Stare
decisis. It stands decided.
Yeah, well, the court decisions that we've been talking about that changed our culture from a majority Christian culture to a relativist culture at the very least, where Christianity is now held in contempt in a lot of circles. That started with these decisions. I accuse the court of grave damage to our country.
There's certainly an argument that could be made in that area that the lessening of truths that have been held for centuries to be inviolate invited in deterioration.
That's correct, Joe. But that's where we are. And I've been telling my liberal pals for years, one of these days, we're going to have a president and a Congress that will put conservatives on the Supreme Court. Then where will you be? They were so confident that would never happen because most people believed in liberalism. Most people believed as they do. They're the admired class in our country. They're not. And this is where we are now. Fine with me, by the way.
It's true, and one of the things I was listening to our senator Tim Kryenbrink, who I consider to be a friend, and he was talking about dark money and all this money that was coming into the campaigns. You recall him talking about that. That's a direct result of Citizens United, Mike. Where did that come from?
Yeah, I know.
I couldn't believe it. Citizens United was a poll star for his political party, thinking that was a wonderful thing, that corporations could give all the money they wanted across state lines and everywhere and never have to tell what they were doing. The truth is always, the truth is the truth. Truth with a small t is relative to your position.
Yes, sir, it is. Joe, we're going to have to go, but I appreciate our time today.
I do. I love talking with you. And I want to give a shout out to your listeners because we were not together last week because I had a variety of conflicts, and you were an absolute gentleman, and I appreciated that very much.
Oh, not a problem. It happens all the time. Thank you, Joe.
Bye-bye.
This is AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge.
Michael Devine, broadcasting live.
It's 4:30. The news is next.
Girls chosen door number 3. Is it the grand prize? Let's find out. Open door number 3.